Hello and welcome to another video where today we're taking a look at Control Abyss. Control Abyss is a decently popular deck in the current meta, as it does do fairly well into some of the more rough matchups like Swordcraft typically for a lot of decks. And it can play pretty okay into Rune. Rune is a bit more of a mixed bag, honestly, but hey. It's definitely a fun deck. I quite enjoy playing it so far, and if you don't enjoy this variant, you can always play Aggro Abyss, which is also pretty decent in current meta, which is obviously a way more aggressive version of the deck compared to the top-end control variant this is. Basically just running some low-cost stuff in the early game to kind of mitigate how much damage you're going to kind of take, and then you really just start spamming out things from turn 5 and trying to take control of the board from there. So we're going to get right into it and take a look. We're going to kick things off with a Dragon matchup. While Dragon isn't super prevalent in the current meta, it has had some pretty okay tournament results. So, hey, why not? I can see why a lot of people are kind of curving into Dragon a little bit more. Still don't think it's probably one of the better decks on ladder. I would much prefer to play Abyss, Rune, or Sword, but Dragon does its job pretty well and is still reasonably strong. You definitely go blow for blow in some circumstances, especially in something like this control matchup where something more slow and rampy like Dragon can actually have a decent matchup overall. So we're kicking things off with a pretty steady early game. Nothing too insane, just getting some damage, you know, getting what we can. I like to use these soul predations pretty early too, try and get some value out of them. They usually allow me to pretty easily draw cards and keep me ahead of the curve. As if you do start running out of steam, it's really hard to recover without soul predation. Like, Olivia does a good job, soul predation does a good job, but it's difficult if you get put on the back burner too much. If you're forced to use too many cards to answer boards, it really does become a problem. Fortunately though, this deck does a really good job of trying to kill multiple things for the cost of one card, which is definitely the biggest advantage you're going to have with this deck. So this is a pretty traditional ramp dragon deck, it looks like. They are just ramping pretty steadily. I end up committing to the early damage, getting as much as I can in early, since I know they're going to ramp out pretty hard, and we kind of want to be doing something like Odin Evos for lethal sort of deal, so we may as well just kind of go for it. And they end up going for Neptune. Possibly the worst thing for us to have to deal with. Neptune is not a card I enjoy fighting against, unfortunately. I love the card, but playing against Neptune is just a pain. It's just really strong for a turn 8 gold. Especially since it has a long-term crest that, you know, gets you constant heals every time you summon an Orca. Fortunately, not too bad an answer here. We're going to take out the entire board, even if it does cost us a Super Evo. And I'm honestly pretty okay with that, given what the rest of our hand looks like. I ideally want them to force their own Evos out too, which seeing Seasoned Merman get Evo'd is good, because that would keep us on an even footing for Evo points. And usually if you can burn all their Evo points, you're in a better position than they are, because the deck doesn't really take advantage of Evo as heavily. Like, a lot of its removal cards can be used without Evo points, which is definitely a good spot to put yourself. And there is the Prismatic Phoenix, which we are going to see an Evo off. Honestly, probably what put them on the biggest loss here was Evoing that. I know, I can understand why you don't want to leave up that, but hey, Evoing that puts you behind when I'm going to Evo with this Olivia now. So now they have to play 1 or 2 cards for removal minimum. The ideal removal would be Twilight Dragon, but they have to have that to actually remove me. Although Burnout is a really good answer to this, even if it is going to cost them what I think was a Genesis Dragon, given that that was a 10 damage burst. So we do know they roughly burned a Genesis, or at least we can suspect that. And Agavi does a really good job, of dealing with the 7 cost. And we can kind of just go wide. Draconic Strike, a little annoying, but not the end of the world. And now they're basically running low on resources. We're kind of just hoping they don't have too much draw, since we are going to be on the bit slower end of setup here. And since we do see Serb, I do try and get as much setup going as we can, while also drawing some cards while we have the opportunity. Which is why I do double Soul Predation. I'm really looking for those higher cards that will get me more value. And we have to see another Neptune, which means we can't use our Serb yet, at least not for removal. Probably a decent one to play Twin on. Like, if we play the Twin Calamities here, wipe out 4. The only real downside would have been if we didn't hit the 5-5, but the odds of not hitting the 5-5 are much lower than hitting it, so I always take that odds. We finally get to see a Twilight Dragon. Not really a lot of removal here that I can use, Odin being really the only good option. And we can actually use these this time. We'll just throw our other one to board. We only really want one Shadow Crypt at a time anyway for the Cerberus plays. So wiping out a few more cards so that we don't have to deal with as much next turn seems like a pretty okay play. Now we have a pretty easy kill here. We can wipe this, no problem. Or we can just go for Cerberus. Honestly, I think Cerberus play is definitely stronger since we do get to clear 2 out of 3 while hitting an extra, what, 8 to face for the turn and leaving up a 6-6. And we get to see another Neptune get played. Not too threatening though. We do have Medusa and we do have Agave. Both really good removal options. But honestly, the Agave play is probably better here, especially with the Charon, because then we can take advantage of Medusa on a bigger board when they have more health. And this is still pretty threatening, especially when we have the Cerberus to back it up. Which, given that they couldn't really wipe us at all, Cerberus is going to give us a easy lethal. This is easily 20 damage on board. And does end up forcing the Dragon player to concede. Following on from that, we have a Havencraft matchup. Wardhaven is a pretty okay match overall. It does require a little bit of luck because you need to have the right cards at the right time. In particular, having Odin to answer William. Very important. We start off with a pretty weak opening hand. Not really a lot going on. Don't really want to use our extra play point, honestly. I'm trying to avoid that if I can. But we're really not looking like we have a lot. At least we do have an Odin pretty early here. And we are seeing them already play their draw cards, so it's one less draw card to have to worry about.
I swear I'll be careful.
Alright, lucky for us, Lionheart top deck is pretty much perfect. This will let us take out the two threats pretty easily.
I made an absolute mess.
I could have Soul Predation, but I decided not to. We'll leave up the 4-2 since we don't really have a lot going on.
Let the sound of the bells give you joy.
And end up going for the Divine Guard. That's a fine play. So now we have the Charon. We get to play that. That thing's going to resummon Lion. Lion can then Evo, kill the Bellringer. And we're left with a pretty okay board state. Fortunately, they do go for the William. Lucky for us, we are pretty much set for the Odin play. Odin is such a nasty card when they play William, since it does just completely eliminate it without really any value other than the crest. Which, I mean, the crest is still pretty good for them, but losing out on a bunch of stats and bodies is kind of important. I end up even throwing the Evo on the Charon, since we can use the extra damage, and the Reanimate's going to be pretty good. It will summon more Lionhearts for us, since it's the only card that fits the Reanimate criteria. Unfortunately, we are a little behind on Evo, but we do have some removal cards, so it's not a big concern. And if anything did get to live here, we would at least have been able to Olivia. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're going to give us that choice. Thankfully, though, Lionheart plus the Blastwing does give us perfect clear here. Since the Lionheart will get the extra +2, which puts it at 7, enough to clear the Olivia, and obviously it's effect clearing the big 10 body. I even Soul Predation this. Just digging for some more late game cards, which worked in our favor, since now we have pretty much all of our good legendaries for late game. It's kind of a crazy hand to look at when you have 6 legendaries in your hand. Now they did go for this. Looking back on this, I think the correct play... Actually, I think the only play is to have to try and force removal through this. Lucky the top deck kind of saves us. I would have loved to have used twins, but being one turn behind means I wasn't able to twin them away. Thankfully, the Departed Bane combo here gets us an easy clear.
I'll always watch over you.
That made that board a lot more manageable, and now twin will be active for next turn if they did go for another one. Fortunately, they just go for some pretty hard removal. Not really a threat to me, especially when I can play Reaper. And we can even try and commit some more stuff to board. So just 10 health left. We're only just kind of waiting for a decent opening to get some damage in. We're basically going to burn out as many of their resources as we can, as cheaply as we can. Which this is a pretty nice one to hit, since I can now remove their extra 2 draws. So now they only have one more draw card. At least one more amulet draw card that they can use. So I think that Odin ended up being an okay target for that. Although I could have went for probably a different line of play that would have been okay as well. Go with like Argavi or something. Agavi. They end up having the other draw card, but at least this should slow them down slightly. It's kind of what I was betting on. So we do get the easy clear. We can even summon the skeleton for Bane and set up the crypt in case we end up drawing a Serb. And just hit the extra 4 damage to face. Fortunately, they do end up unholy vesseling this, but that does consume most of their turn. They're still running so much healing, there's not a lot I can do about it. But it does leave me for a basically free Cerberus turn, so I'm not too disappointed. We're going to get some okay damage off this and set up a board that has to be dealt with. Because it's just a lot of damage. So we see Fox, and then we see Jean. Very good answer. Not so great for us. Fortunately, we are basically forced into the Twin Calamities here, but the healing is fine, and it is a decent body still. So I don't mind using one of our 2 that we have in hand. And seeing the Odin get forced is an interesting one. Must be about the only removal they had left that was single target. And because of what we pretty much have here, I can just commit this Olivia, get the extra draws. So it's blasting easily clears the 4-2. And there's another William, perfect target for our 3rd Odin. Unfortunately, if they did end up playing a 3rd William, it would have been a bit of a problem, but at this point, we've got them on the ropes for damage. It's going to be very hard to make a good comeback here. Although water is a pretty decent play. But since you aren't playing any hard removal now, since they didn't play any, this is just free now. Medusa easily gets this victory, no issue. We could have also used Twin, it would have done the same job. Now we'll play into one of the stronger meta decks of the format, Sword. This deck actually handles the Sword matchup pretty well. It really is the Rune matchup that I'm still a bit iffy on. I'm about 50-50 on the Rune matchup, just because the Rune matchup really likes to go long, and you kind of are forced to play this deck more aggressively if you're in a Rune matchup. I actually haven't had too much success with the deck in the Rune matchup. But I also haven't played a crap ton of games with this deck yet. This variant I've played only a handful at this point, but enough to get the feel for the deck and what it wants to do. It's just basically learning the smaller combo plays that kind of lead me to victory, you know? Going down the right paths, the right plays. So we pretty much want to just control Sword. So we want to make sure we clear everything off Sword's board as much as we can and as cheaply as we can. Because the less damage they get to our face, the less likely they are to just they're less likely they are to just storm us down with something like Albert. Which I'm more than fine with. Like, we can control these pretty easily here. Although spending this here was a little bit of a risk. I didn't really see a play that worked any better, and I was like, we'll just commit to this, screw it. And I mean, it kind of worked out, because it did force them into having to play Peace and evolve it themselves. So I'm not too sad about that. It was a reasonable trade-off. So I do decide to commit to this with Evo. Again, we are an Evo behind now, but I think I'm okay with that for what value we're going to be getting. I even decide to Soul Predation this since we are pretty low on cards. I want to restock our hand just enough to keep us in this game. So another Luminous Knight, and this time a Zirconia. Not too surprised. They're basically just going for Flood now. So we just have to full clear this as best as we can. And we don't have too many bad options, but I think the Medusa is definitely the best. So Medusa is now a card where if they don't answer it, they lose. And I mean, that's a pretty good answer. Did force them into one of their Super Evos though, pretty early. We're now pretty free to just play Cerberus and go for heal. Because we are trying to avoid getting Alberted. So we decide to obviously favor the healing over the damage here. Because they have an extra play point and next turn is an Albert potential turn. So I want to maximize our health as much as possible. Get us well and truly out of range so that we can just pressure them. Now we are threatening lethal from hand. We have a very nice setup. The Odin, obviously with the Serb. Obviously their play is a really good answer to this, but it did force their final Evo point. Which is exactly what I wanted to see. And we end up drawing another Medusa. That top deck being absolutely crucial here. We could have probably handled this in a few different ways, but Medusa just makes this really easy. Because now it's another situation where if you can't answer Medusa, you do just lose the game, which does lead them to end up conceding because they probably don't have that answer in play. So overall, I've had a lot of fun with this deck so far. I'll keep tinkering with it and playing it, and it should be pretty fine. I don't know if I'd really change the deck list honestly too much in the tinkering phase, but overall, I just think it's really solid. It does the job. It's a very expensive deck. I mean, you're effectively running every Blood Legendary in triplicate. Like, almost. It's very, very, like, crazy deck. You're also running both neutrals at max as well. So it's an insane one to play out. But it is a lot of fun. So if you have the legendaries for it and you're committed to the Abyss archetype, I highly recommend giving it a look. Otherwise, good luck with some of the more budget options out there, because right now Shadowverse is in a pretty rough state as far as decks consuming as many legendaries as possible. I mean, half of this deck is legendary cards. So if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. And until next time, guys, I'll see you then.